everyone, and welcome to another one of our quick review sections. This is the classical civilization, so we're talking about Rome and Greece. And this is actually one of the major reporting categories, and so if we're thinking about things we really want to know, Rome and Greece is one of those really big things to know. All right, so as we talk about, we're going to start with Greece, and then we'll move into Rome, because Greece came first. And that makes sense that we are going to see how much the Greeks influenced the Romans. So we've mentioned religion already. Remember that the Greeks are a polytheistic mythology, meaning that they worship many gods. One of the things that distinguishes the Greek and Roman gods is the fact that they looked like humans and acted like humans. And we're going to see them portrayed a lot in their art. When you think about wars that really define Greece, Persian Wars are really going to define them because this allows them to unite. So remember, the Persian Wars unite them, and the Peloponnesian Wars are going to divide them. And so the Persian Wars saw Athens and Sparta, rival city-states, actually coming together. Remember that when we think about Greece, that their geography, which is a separate reporting category, but I'm going to mention it here, that the geography of Greece is dominated by mountains. And those mountains meant that each of the city-states developed independently and that there wasn't a lot of interaction. Also, because of the farmland, the farmland is not great because of the mountains, and so they had to set up colonies. The Spartans would just go steal what they need, but the Athenians set up colonies throughout Turkey and the Mediterranean that they would use to trade with. Because of their geography, there's only two things that all of the Greece had in common, and that was religion and language. So it's unique here to see that the Persian War, they're fighting together against a common enemy, against the Persians. And they will have victory at Marathon and Salamis, the particular naval battle. That is huge for the Athenians because the Athenians definitely had the better navy. And after the Persian War, we will see the golden age of Greece. Now, after the Persian War, there is that golden age of Greece, but eventually we're going to end up in a civil war, the Peloponnesian War. And what happens is that there's competition for the Greek world, and it all comes down to always Athens and Sparta. Remember that Athens really values education, debate, all of those things, the arts, versus Sparta valued military might and prowess. And it's not to say the Athenians weren't powerful, because they were. The Athenians were placed in charge of this Delian League, and they abuse the money, and Pericles takes money to spend to build all these things, and the people aren't so happy. So the Spartans are able to use that to their advantage. There is a plague or a flu that kind of kills and weakens a lot in Athens, and so Spartan is actually successful. And so it leads to kind of the slowing of any kind of cultural growth and advancement that had been happening. Now, the golden age of Pericles, remember, happens after the Persian War, before that civil war, and it expanded democracy. Remember that Athens is participating in a direct democracy where everyone is participating. Parthenon is one of their great examples of their architecture, the beautiful columns. The Parthenon, remember, is in Athens, and it's a temple to Athena. So there's so many contributions of the Greeks. Philosophy, which we think about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Math, Euclid and Pythagoras, Pythagorean theorem. And science, we have Archimedes with the Archimedes screw, and Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine. Remember, he had people to come up with an oath that they would try not to hurt anyone. You've got the columns, which we'll look at in a few minutes. Father of history, Herodotus. Poetry, you're probably going to see a question about Homer, not Homer Simpson. Remember Homer, who was the blind poet who spoke the stories of the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad, which tells the story of the Trojan War, and the Odyssey, which tells the story of Odysseus' journey home. Remember that an epic poem is the story of a hero's journey. Lots of plays. Sophocles, Oedipus Rex is my favorite. Aeschylus, who wrote Osteria. So the Greek columns, they go from plain to more simple. So the Doric, I always like to say, is dorky. The Ionic, eyes. And then the Corinthian, the fanciest name, the fanciest column. Philip the Great, remember Philip of Macedon, it's Alexander the Great's father, will conquer all of Greece except for Sparta. Then his son will come in and will finish conquering Greece, and then we'll go to Egypt and all the way to the edge of India. And he spreads what we call Hellenistic culture, which is a blending of really Greek and kind of Persian cultures, and does this through trade. Now, the Alexander's empire, Alexander will die and his empire is split up. And so we're not going to see another big powerhouse till the Romans start. And the Romans are going to start in the Italian peninsula. And they have, of course, wonderful mythological beginnings with the story of the twins Romulus and Remus. They also worship the polytheistic mythology, the same as the Greeks. They just changed their names. So, for example, Zeus becomes Jupiter, Poseidon becomes Neptune, Aphrodite becomes Venus, Hera becomes Juno, Hades becomes Pluto, and so on. And of course, our planets are named after the Roman gods. The really thing that starts to expand the Roman Empire or to become like an empire is where the Punic Wars. This is a series of 3 wars, and Carthage is controlling North Africa and the Mediterranean Sea. They were in Tunisia, and Rome is fighting against them for control of the Mediterranean. Remember, it's all about control of the Mediterranean. Hannibal is most important in the Second Punic War, will come up through Spain, through the Alps in the north, and try to invade Italy that way with elephants. He's doing pretty good till Scipio goes and attacks Carthage, and Hannibal has to go home to defend Carthage, and then they lose. So you can see here how each time Rome is getting bigger and bigger. Eventually, they take all the Mediterranean basin and they control one of the largest empires the world has ever seen. They're on 3 continents. They're on Asia, in the Middle East, they are in Europe, and they are in Africa as well. The Republic will eventually decline because of many things. One of the big ones is civil war over the power of Julius Caesar. There's also inflation. And Julius Caesar, who is given the title dictator for life, will eventually be assassinated because people fear his power. Following his assassination, though, there is more control for power, and eventually Augustus Caesar, Octavian, Julius Caesar's nephew, will become the first emperor of Rome. Under the empire, under Caesar Augustus, there is the Pax Romana, 200 years of peace and prosperity. And during that time, Christianity starts. We've already discussed Christianity in depth. Just remember that it is started in the Roman Empire and that it's going to be spread throughout the Roman Empire eventually when Constantine, the first Roman emperor, converts for Christianity, but that'll be 300 years after it starts. So the contributions of the ancient Rome. So we have the Pantheon, the Colosseum, and the Forum. The Forum, of course, is like the Agora. So really focus on the Pantheon, has that dome in it. It was to all gods because Pan means all. Colosseum, where the gladiator games happened. They invented aqueducts, which remember are these systems to carry water, which was helped because of the invention of the arch. And several arches together form a dome. Also, Roman roads were built to a huge extent. Language, Latin is the mother of the 5 Romance languages. French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian all come from Latin. And they do practice, again, polytheistic mythology until they become Christian. One of the most important things that we get from them is their laws and different things like that. For example, the 12 Tables, which is Roman law, one of those was innocent until proven guilty. The concept of the republic, that we elect leaders to represent us, is also what we get from Rome. So we have the Senate, which was elected to serve the people. Now, there's so much more we can say about Greece and Rome. I'm giving just a kind of simplified version, and I'm going to do some other videos on government and economics that'll kind of tie in some of these other gaps. So you can see here a picture of the Pantheon. We've got the dome here, the columns that they copied from the Greeks with the dome, the Colosseum, the aqueducts, some Roman arches, and then the Roman Forum is where the Senate met. And so that gives you a little bit of coverage about the Greeks and Romans, just kind of a basic overview. Obviously, there's much, much more detail about 2 amazingly great civilizations, but the purpose of this is to prepare us for our SOL test, so we're going to try to keep it short.